What up? We're back on the stream, and the Saltwater guys have taken over again. We apologize for that, because that's basically what happens.
That is basically what happens.
The Saltwater guys get on, and then all of a sudden, all the freshwater people are like, meh.
Did you notice, like, how everybody that was hanging around here for the last talk is now gone? We're, like, in a ghost town now. So, hey, whatever.
I'd rather look at freshwater shrimp right now. My name is Remy, and this is Peter from the Reef New Network.
What's up?
Bahama Llama Coral is my channel. If you ever get in hankering for some saltwater tutorials.
For llama-related content?
Yes, there's actually none. But I do want, it's funny because I want an alpaca or 3.
That's not a llama.
I don't actually want llamas. Llamas are big.
They spit, too.
Alpacas are cute. Let's be honest.
Alpacas don't spit.
I think they still do spit.
No, they don't. That's a fun fact.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
I just thought it was less spit.
No. I mean, maybe they drool. I'm not sure. I've never kept any myself. But in my research, with my crack team of engineers and scientists, I've, this is something that's discovered. But none of that saltwater related. And this isn't the Llama channel. This is reef-related chat with Remy. So Remy and I go way back, not only at Aquashella here, too, but with the podcast. About 3 years now. You're like one of the very first people to reach out to me after we launched the podcast. You are a radio personality, and I was like, oh, snap, this dude's coming out. This guy's judging me. This guy's got, like, the tones and the production and everything else. But, man, what an awesome experience it's been, building with you. Your channel's exploded, the podcast continues to grow, and now this is like our thesis right here. Creative content together, live. My media, your media, coming together. Boosh.
Boosh. Yeah, so. I feel like sometimes I come off as a creep, and I'm sure that you may have gotten that vibe when I reached out to you in the very beginning.
Only when you groped me at that one show. Aside from that, I've never gotten the vibe, but,
I tend to dive into things full bore, so that's probably why, coming into the hobby, I was like, well, I need to expand the community, and I need to make sure that I'm knowing who the players are. And the Reef News Network was just starting at that time, and I had a long commute, because anybody in Chicago will tell you, no matter where you are, even if you're in the city and you have a commute on the L, or you're coming from the suburbs, it's going to be half an hour, 45 minutes minimum. So I got a chance to listen to a lot of podcasts, and being able to listen, and I'm sure the freshwater people can attest to this too. You've got your own set of podcasts, but if you can also think about reefing or your fish tanks while you're driving, I know it's a very visual thing, but it just keeps you company, and it's guys that are talking about what you want to talk about as well, or hear about.
Totally, that's the key. That's one thing we strived with the podcast, one thing you do with your day job, but you've done very well with your YouTube channel too, and even the fresh stuff that's been successful is it's conversational.
Yeah.
We're not sitting there dictating content and saying, blah, 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 and you're not on your videos being like, do this, this, and this. It's like sitting down and being in the room like we're doing now. And we're talking fish stuff. And, and that was key to me why I wanted to co-host for the podcast, because audio only, as you do morning shows and afternoon drives, and you've always tend to work with a co-host and stuff too, is if we're having a conversation, it's easy for somebody to feel like they're on the other side of the table contributing to that, I'll ask you a question and somebody listening and it's like, oh yeah, that's totally. So it's been really cool to kind of do this. One thing we do a ton of that I've been honored to do is come out to all these shows.
Yep.
You are now part of the Aquashella Road team. I just made that up, patent pending. Nobody else used that. We're the Saltwater Aquashella Road team. And so now you're out here. This show is unique for you because you're only a few hours away to drive, so you're actually able to buy stuff here.
And I did, and I need to stop going back into the coral area.
Do you think your wife will be watching this? Should you not maybe talk about this?
I don't know. I didn't tell her to watch this one, so I think we're safe.
All right, we're safe. So.
And then whenever they ask for a receipt, I just say, oh, no.
Remy spent $15 today.
Yes, $15.
That's what coral costs, whether you know it or not.
Well, yeah, we wanted to talk about just, when you're coming out to a conference like Aquashella, some of the things that you can do to kind of hack the system and get in earlier and be able to cherry pick corals and, freshwater fish and plants and all that kind of stuff that comes out to all these. So I think the first would be to check out the website. And I would say, if you can swing it, always do an early bird or a VIP entry.
Yes. They're always a little bit more money, But the value you're getting is you usually get some sort of T-shirt or swag bag, which easily equates for the difference, in it. If you're planning on buying a shirt here, what are shirts? $20, $25 or something? You get that, you get a swag bag, but you get to cherry pick everything here. So no matter if you're saltwater or freshwater, you literally have the first look at anything that's for sale. Now, that might not be the opportune time to wheel and deal because there's a long weekend ahead of you.
Yep.
But if you're looking for a key piece that's hard to find, that is super desirable, that is going to go quick, that's your opportunity to come in, and it might cost you a little more because it's first thing in the morning or it's a choice piece, but you'll walk out of here with what you want. So I agree wholeheartedly. Always, always, always opt for early bird VIP, whatever the case is. It's generally not that much more. It's usually $50 to $75 more than a regular ticket, but again, the T-shirt, the opportunity to get in and talk with people, and the opportunity not to be like bumping into everybody. You have, especially at a show like Aquashella, the VIPs have 1 hour of the place to themselves. I don't remember what they cap it at, but it's not like, oh, we're calling this a VIP and selling to 1,000 people. It's under 100 or maybe 100 per day.
Even when they opened doors at 10 a.m. this morning, it was like these people had the whole place to themselves. So, and another thing that's unique about Aquashella is you get to meet all your favorite people on YouTube. So there's so many people. Even I'm not a freshwater person, but I'm thinking about getting one. But like Tanner Serpa's just like hanging out. Big Rich is out here just hanging out
with his award-winning mullet.
Oh my God!
I sat with Big Rich at dinner last night. If you don't know Big Rich, look up Ohio Fish Rescue. He's the guy who, if you don't know who he is because you're a saltwater guy, you inevitably have heard about somebody on YouTube turning an in-ground pool into a giant aquarium to swim in.
Yep.
That was Big Rich, and I believe it's his son that works the rescue with him. But Big Rich has the most impressive mullet in the whole industry. And we found out last night at dinner that he won the World Mullet Championships and now has the most award-winning mullet in the industry.
Yeah, it's pretty crazy. He's telling us that story.
He's standing right in front of us. He's not looking at us, but we are gazing upon the glory of his mullet as we speak. But
on the saltwater side, you've got George, who is one half of the duo that puts this thing on. And, George with Coralfish 12G is probably the biggest saltwater YouTuber, I would say.
I would say so. Yeah, dedicated saltwater.
And he's kind of gone out and he did a premiere of one of his new videos where he went to the Amazon. They found some new fish species.
Are you sure you should be talking about that? I thought that was.
Well, no. He had a teaser.
Oh, he had
video
a teaser up. Okay.
Several months ago, he went and came back and they put something together. But this is going to be a really cool series. We got a chance to get a sneak peek of it last night, like the full hour long. It looks legit documentary style
with George's flair to it. That's the thing that's different is it's filmed, produced, kind of cut together, but with that humor and sensibility that George interjects to it. So it was really entertaining to watch. I'm excited to see the whole series come out, and I'm excited to see what he did. But again, we're off topic here. So
I'm going back to the why it matters.
Yeah, that's right, because you can come in and get to spend some time. These guys legitimately, even Remy gives a talk and has a following. Like, people come up, take pictures with him, he signs autograph. Like, once the day goes on and people get here, your access to these guys, fresh saltwater or otherwise, gets limited. You're going to wait in lines, or you might only get a minute. You get that VIP ticket, you can come in and hang out with Remy for a half hour. You talk llamas all morning if you want. It doesn't even matter. But you're going to get that across the board. So the value of the VIP ticket is pretty negligible as far as your return on investment.
For sure.
Your ROI is high on that.
Yeah.
So tip one, invest in the early bird specials or the VIP passes or whatever, and definitely get in. Get your pick of the thing, get your pick of people you want to hang out with, pictures, autographs, whatever, and then you're going to be happy for that. So
yeah, I would say another tip would be, because Aquashella is unique in that you have all of these different things to go do and see and participate in, you can also see the speakers. And there was a whole slew of amazing speakers this year. Mm-hmm. And I would check the website before you, like, if you're going to Aquashella Dallas, check the website for the schedule. Make sure to plan out your day so you don't miss those things. because again, to see those I hate to call it influencers, but those people that with YouTube channels or whatever, they're speaking up there,
the tubers,
and it's nice to have a good audience. I'm always worried that no one's going to show up to my talks. But,
I'm not going to lie to you. I was a little worried for you too, because it came right up to the first talk of the day. VIP is only in here, and then early birds came in at 11.
Yep.
And we were all standing around there at 2, 3 of 11, and there wasn't many people but us hanging out. But lo and behold, boom, that place was filled up. 5 minutes after, you wait a little, you start a little later for those people that came in. So it's, make a plan. The vendors are advertised beforehand. The show map is online. You can see that. Also decide, it's a long day. This show goes from 10 a.m. to 7 p.m. on Saturdays and then 10 to 5 on Sundays. That's a long day, especially if you come with kids. So the VIP ticket, while it's going to give you the cream of the crop to pick what you want, if you're not really looking for something specific and you're looking more for a deal as opposed to a signature piece, and there's somebody you want to see talk, or you want to be here for the raffle, because these raffles you have to be here for. Maybe you're now playing your day and you come at noon, and your strategy is no longer, I'm going to get the first pick. Your strategy is, I'm going to make deals.
Yeah.
And one of the best way to make deals with coral vendors is the bundle.
The bundle?
The Geico bundle.
Getting the the pack, the bundle pack of frags or whatever. Also something people don't think about when you're coming to a show is the tanks that are on sale. I literally saw a full setup Planet Aquarium, which I believe retails like $2,000. They had it on sale yesterday for $1,500. Nobody bought it. It is at $1,200 now for a 75-gallon everything, sump, stand, tank, you name it. And you got yourself a really nice Planet Aquarium for $1,200.
Seriously,
there's a lot of that just around here if you notice, because they don't want to pack up the tanks.
No.
They want to give them to you at a good price so that you can take it home.
Yeah, saltwateraquarium.com has a whole tank. You get the tank, stand, light, livestock, the water if you want it, complete, scaped, everything in it. And it was, I think they have it for like $2,500.
Yeah.
And it's, again, a 70 or 90 or one, it's a larger tank. So the deals are to be had. So if you're coming here for hardware, I would say your best hardware deals are going to be Sunday afternoon.
Yep.
When people are thinking about breaking down and they're thinking hard about, oh my God, I do not want to pack this tank up. I do not want to carry it home. That's going to be your time. Same thing with corals. When people have leftover corals, your pickings might get slim, especially for more pickier pieces.
Yeah.
But that's going to be the time to go in and say, hey, I see, you had these 5 corals for $100. What a pain that is to travel. How about $75? I'll take all 5 of them off your hand.
Yep.
And a lot of times some people will say no, they don't mind traveling with it, but you should not be afraid to make an offer. And if you're willing to make an offer on a bundle, say, I'd like those 5 pieces, and oh yeah, awesome, give me one of your t-shirts, or I see you are selling Apex to at 10%. How much for this whole thing? You will be surprised how many people will give you a deal that you'll walk away being like, that was a steal.
Yep.
Because they value you as a customer. So there you go. So don't be afraid to offer. And don't, listen, don't be cheap. Like, stuff has value. Just because you want to wheel and deal, wheeling and dealing is different than just being cheap.
Yeah.
Right?
We don't have any, we don't need, what's the dude from Pawn Stars name?
Oh my God, yeah.
It's $100. I don't know, $20 is the best I can do. We don't need any of that.
No, seriously.
Because you don't think about, and a lot of these vendors, there's one from the Seattle area here. You got to think about taking all those corals from Seattle, checking those corals in that plane.
Or driving them.
Some
of them drive.
Bringing them all the way here, reacclimating them, getting them to open up and be happy for you. There's a lot that goes into it. And it's definitely worth the money, I think, when you're paying $40-50 for a frag.
I mean, often these guys are giving better prices for show specials anyways, so to come in and then try to really, ask for an 80% discount on something that's already a good price is tough. But typically everybody's willing to give you a little deal, a little something here. Something you might not realize as a person that comes to these shows is these vendors pay to be here. There is a cost for a booth. Like, booths are not free, and booths are not cheap. So don't don't be that guy or girl that comes in for $100 frag and be like, I'll give you $10, and then when they say no, be indignant about it and like storm off. $100, yeah, I'll give you 80, I'll give you 75, and if they say no, all right, be like, all right, cool. Then what would you take? Is there anything to be off on this? So don't hesitate to ask, don't hesitate to bundle, but be realistic. Another good thing you can find at these shows is used equipment in the oddest places. Like random booths will have some used equipment because they have a brick and mortar store and people traded in something. So I saw a big Clearview scrubber at like an artist booth it was like a $675 scrubber. Thing looked brand new and it was down to $350.
Wow.
I don't know why they had it. They had some other reactors and stuff there, but do not overlook a booth because it's something you might not be interested in, because there might be something that surprises you there.
Yeah.
And I see that a lot. I see like random used or open box equipment at the weirdest places, and those are steals to get.
Yeah, and then going back to your getting a good deal on coral, a lot of times, and I know this from my own personal experience with going to my frag swaps in St. Louis, I've done 3 of them now, and toward the end, in that last hour, I literally put out a sign that says everything is 50% off.
Yeah,
Just because I want to get rid of it. I brought it here for a reason. Now, a lot of these guys, this is all they do. They have a farm of their own, or they have a store of their own, or whatever, but I'm just a hobbyist, so I'm like, I have extra of all of these things, 50% off of everything. So if you're in the last hour, that's, I think, when you're going to make those deals the most.
That's another good tip too, is, there's a lot of big companies, there's a lot of brick and mortars here, there's farms here and stuff too, but there are some smaller hobbyists too. You will, without a doubt, if you're at a show that does have hobbyist vendors, Aquashella is a bigger production show, so we don't have as many of those, but we do definitely have smaller local people, like Remy's talking about going to like a local swap or something. You'll get a better deal from a hobbyist because they don't have the overhead. They don't have a storefront. They don't have employees. So if you're really looking, if you're not so choosy about particularly the type of coral you want, you're just looking, you're not sure what you want, but you want to get a good deal, and you see some smaller hobbyist vendors with maybe just one, 20 or 30 gallon frag tank, make sure you go and stop them. Their hobbyist frags are just as good as the big business frag too. Don't overlook somebody because they're a Remy. For the love of, come on, people. Give Remy a chance. Why won't you give Remy a chance? He's just trying to sell you a frag to feed his children.
Yeah.
Is that what you wanted me to say?
Yeah, thank you.
Okay,
I think you hit the nail on the head.
I hit my mark on that. So.
Give you your $10 after this.
Okay, thank you very much.
Another thing is, and I know that as a hobbyist, coming to these things before I was involved in these things, it was very much all about the coral and all about getting as many frags as I could for the least amount of money. But there are a lot of vendors here, like, Fritz obviously has a huge hand in the show, Siche, all the freshwater people, and you can win stuff from those booths.
Oh, yeah.
And you can get the latest and greatest. Like, I feel like the new Siche product that is not been announced online is here, and you can see that.
Yes, it is.
Yeah, you can see that here, and those are the times when you get to ask the questions. You maybe even get to buy it before anybody else. So go to each one of the vendor booths as well, sign up for whatever they got, and a lot of times they've got like free actual product that they can give you too.
Or highly discounted.
Yeah,
like Fritz is selling their stuff too for a fraction of what you're buying it at the store for. Show specials. So if you're looking for some glass cleaner or some RPM or something, go up to the booth and ask, is this stuff for sale? A lot of times you don't realize because they're not typically retail forward. Fritz is a manufacturer and they sell to retailers, but when they come to these shows, they're now bringing product with them that you can go and say, what do you got? $5 for a $15 thing of glass cleaner.
Yep.
So yeah, don't hesitate to go into a booth and ask. Even if you see maybe an aquarium set up that doesn't have a sign on it, and you're like, oh my God, there's a tank out here that Tana from Serpa Designs did.
I love freshwater,
river scene with plants coming out of the top. It is the most amazing thing I ever saw, and I want to buy it as is. I bet you if you went up to whoever owns that tank and everything and said, how much for this tank, they would give you a deal price.
Yeah.
Whether or not they have a sign on it or not. So know what you're going into, kind of have that plan of what you want to do, but don't skip anything. Even if it's you're coming to a show like this that's fresh and salt and you're a saltwater guy, stop at a fresh booth because maybe they have cleaners that aren't really fresh specific.
I got a glass sponge from one of them, like a cleaner of the glass. I think it was an Oasis. Had a bunch of free stuff that they were giving out.
Yep.
And even the sponge filter, like media stuff that we use in the hobby as well. I mean, you can get a whole bunch of like free stuff if you go to the vendor booths as well. They're all here. They want you to buy their products. They want to put their best foot forward. So they're going to make sure that you get some free stuff whenever you come out.
Sure. Stickers, candy. Even oh my God.
The candy.
There are candy bowls all over this place. It is it's a tough gauntlet to run if you're trying to not eat candy. But yeah. I'll like be hanging out in the Fritz booth or something, and they got a couple bowls of candy, and you'll see people like walking through sneakily, looking to see if you're looking at them, and they're kind of grab a candy and make their way out.
Yep.
I don't want to talk about Fritz at all, but like they know that. And these are grown adults. We're not talking about children. We're talking about grown adults sneaking through and grabbing a piece of candy and moving on their way and stuff. So it's really cool. And one more thing I think is a good thing to do at these shows, even these big shows like this, is leverage the social media that the show's bringing, and don't be spammy about it, but if there's a community forum for it or a community Facebook group, if you're growing frags yourself, this is a great opportunity to set up trades, either with other hobbyists coming to the show.
That's a really good one.
Or even with the businesses here, too, because these businesses are looking for new pieces, unique pieces. Reach out to a local fish store. Say, hey, I was in the shop and I saw you had this thing. I have this thing, and I'm coming to the show and meeting any interest in, and you probably maybe send some pictures or whatever. But that's a really unique way, too, to expand your portfolio with just straight-up trades, or to work with local companies to maybe trade in a fish that's too big for your tank and get some coral, or maybe a coral grows wild and you have a huge zoa garden and you got all these cool zoas and you want to cut a little out.
Yep.
Make a trade. That's a great place to save money, especially even if you're not intentionally fragging. You just have a tank that grows really well.
Yeah.
So.
Well, and there's another aspect to that is if you know that like the Gingerbread Twins are going to be here, or Top Shelf Aquatics is going to be here, and they've got a website, go to the website, see if there's anything you like, and then you don't have to worry about getting here immediately and getting that, because a lot of times you can purchase it from them on their website and they'll bring it here.
Yep.
So I've done that a lot when it comes to like not having to ship. That's a good way to get around the shipping costs of having coral. If you're going to a place where, like, I don't know, I love cherry corals. They're out at these events sometimes. Worldwide Corals, Top Shelf Aquatics, all those big guys. So you can make deals that way too, even before the show starts. So
now, one other thing, this may not necessarily be a deal, but speaking of that, if you have a Top Shelf or a WWC or a bigger Tank It Easy or something, and you've traveled to the show as an event, like, none of these shows are local to me. New York's the closest thing that I could like actually buy something and bring it home, but I'm typically working the show, so I don't get out of there till maybe Monday or something, and I don't want coral to sit. If it's a bigger vendor and you want to buy, ask for a deal to be made on shipping. Yeah. You know, let's say like, if I was here and there was something I wanted from Tank It Easy, I would talk with those guys and say, I really want this, but I'm not going to, can you, if I buy these 5 things, will you give me, cut me a deal on shipping it? That's another great place for you to not only get stuff that's maybe not in your area much, because things are definitely regional. Like as you go to these shows across the country, you for sure see different corals in different areas that are more prevalent. So maybe if you're on the East Coast and you're having a hard time finding, I'm just making something up like a weeping willow, you go to like a Rap, California, and there's a bunch of people that do them out there because it's popular there. Maybe get it there and then can work a deal to ship it. That sometimes, not often, but even if you're buying corals from multiple vendors, you can maybe sometimes go to one final vendor that does do shipping and say, would you ship all of this to me? Yep. It might cost you a premium, but it might be offset by the deals you got for corals you maybe can't get, or not necessarily fish. I don't know. That's a little different.
Mainly coral.
You don't often see saltwater fish at any of these shows, really. And when you do, it's usually a much smaller. Like if you're into freshwater, there are fish to be bought all day long
fish
here.
Fish and shrimp, that's for sure. We got a question?
We got a question here, so
The Zen Ginger says, what's the best beginner saltwater setup to keep corals? Size, light, rocks, specimen?
There's a lot you can go with there. I mean, for me, in saltwater, the two things that you deal with is the smaller it is, actually the harder it is, because saltwater has parameters that will swing wildly. Unlike freshwater, where you just need to condition your tap water and you can be okay, and some of that nutrients that you get in your tap water is good for your tank, saltwater you need to be extremely stable. And because you're mixing your own salt water, you're possibly dosing things. In a 5-gallon tank, 2 milliliters of something could be enough to swing it wildly out. As where if you're dealing with a 100-gallon tank, you have a lot more forgiveness for getting used to it. So if you're a beginner, I personally like the 40-gallon breeder or the 55.
Yep.
55s are a dime a dozen in the used market. You can get them with sumps and stands and lights for next to nothing because everybody has a 55-gallon. So if you have the space for it, I think that's a really, and this mine, you can, Jeremy and I on the podcast battle over this all the time, but to me, 40 breeder, 55-gallon is ultimately the best size. Coral's the most forgiving. One of the easiest ones that provides you with such a huge variety, in my opinion, are zoas and leathers. Super easy to keep, super forgiving with your tanks, kind of ebb and flows as you're learning, but such a huge variety in shapes, sizes, colors, and everything else. To me, you can really get set up well for success by starting out patiently with a decent-sized tank and a set of hardy corals like zoas or leathers. That's my opinion.
So I'll say I agree with the 40 breeder for sure. I was actually going to say that is a great tank to start.
Sure you were.
But I have to go with my own personal, like I started with a 13.5 gallon Fluval Evo all-in-one.
Well, that's a good point. So all-in-ones are a different story. So
yeah,
yes,
so
yes.
it's an all-in-one tank. So you basically have a section of the back of the tank. In this case, it was a peninsula tank, so everything was on one side of the tank. But you have a section in the back where you can put filter media. You could put like Chemi Pure Blue or Max Out or whatever, and you can also throw your heater back there and everything, and it's just a nice little ecosystem. And I think what I liked most about the Evo is that it was just so simple. It's very easy, and you can get into something like that for less than $300.
And there were a ton of companies making like third-party add-ons to make it better too. That's the same thing with the Innovative Marine, and even JBJ has a bunch. They were famous for the BioCube. That was like an industry standard for getting into it, the all-in-one BioCube 29s.
Yep.
But the all-in-one tank makes it easier to be successful smaller.
Yeah.
When you get into that 40 or 55, you're looking for a reef-ready tank with additional equipment. So good point. I didn't consider that.
I think it's the cost. A lot of people are afraid to get into saltwater because of the cost, and I always say it's as inexpensive or as expensive as you want to make it. So you can get a lot of these smaller tanks on Craigslist or in your reefing communities wherever you're at. I think that's a good option. And then for lighting, because she asked about light, I would say the AI Prime HD is like the perfect light for a beginner, and it's affordable. If brand new, they're just over $200. You can get them on the used market for $125 to $150 depending, and they come in white or black. And I immediately replaced the stock light on that Fluval with the AI Prime HD. I love the controllability of it. It grows coral like crazy. It's on all of my tanks almost, and it's just one of those lights that I love.
It is a great light for sure. I have several of them myself that I've used all over, but I will say another option for a super quality light at a budget price is the Reef Breeder stuff. So, Reef Breeders is one of the sponsors of the podcast. I'm not giving Logan and Reef Breeders lip service because of that. It was one of the first LED lights I ever bought. When Logan was like 14 years old, he started this company. They've recently been named the best budget light by BRS for SPS, I believe.
Okay.
But BRS carries them now, and it used to be direct, but same thing. Offers a big variety of budget-friendly, controllable LED lights. Different form factor than the AI Prime, so I think it's going to depend on where your tank is, but those two things, the AI Primes, they are everywhere and a great light, especially with mounting options. or if you're looking for something a little more panel-based, check out the Reef Breeder stuff over on BRS, and you'll find something there for a different layout, especially if you go with like a longer tank, like a 20 long or something, and you want a little more unique layout.
Yeah.
You'd have to then have multiple primes where you can get a nice longer fixture, from the Reef Breeders. So, but yeah, did we get everything? Setup, size, salt, corals.
Specimens.
One thing, for anybody that's beginner is patience. Patience, patience, patience. If you want to set yourself up for success, take your time. Nothing happens fast in saltwater quickly. Parameters change slowly. Tanks mature slowly. If you can't wait the 3 weeks to have the tank settled in to get fish in there, maybe think twice about saltwater, honestly, because you're just going to instantly set yourself up for disappointment and be forever like chasing things because you just can't sit back and let it do its thing.
Yep. Even after you've entered like Fritz Zyme, I use the turbo start.
Sure.
Even after that, I'll still wait a couple weeks just to make sure that the tank is ready to go.
Yeah.
And after that, the biological filtration starts. And Chad from Reef Nutrition is a great guy to talk to about biology. The Copa God, he's amazing. Reef Nutrition is a great brand in the saltwater industry. And he told me that no matter what it is, no matter whose tank you're talking about, every single saltwater tank, and I would imagine freshwater tank too, has a different biological makeup.
Yes.
And I think that's what makes it so challenging and so frustrating for people, is that you can talk to your friend who's got amazing
identical
SPS,
You guys could have the identical setup.
And you cannot grow SPS, but he can, and you're just mushrooms and zoanthids and all that kind of stuff. So don't get frustrated. It really is, I would say, about a year before you get to know your tank. And that's not to say that you can't throw stuff in there and you can't try and experiment and stuff, but you really have to wait a little bit of time to get to know your tank, so you know what it's going to do in certain situations.
Yeah, I mean, I have that saying that there's a difference between a cycled tank and a mature tank, and that goes for freshwater too. You can cycle a tank and it can be ready for fish, but it still is not mature with a biofilm over everything and an active microbiome like going in the live rock and everything else. So don't get complacent being like, well, I waited my time, we went through the cycle, ammonia, everything's out, we've done the whole thing, my tank's good. Your tank's cycled and it can now support life, but it doesn't mean that you're going to have life thrive in your tank because your tank is still maturing.
Yeah.
So that's just a thing a lot of beginners, you don't hear that a lot. You hear, you got to cycle your tank and then you're good to go. Yes, you do, but then you also have to let your tank mature to be fully stable, because even in that first year, you're up and down. Alkalinity's bouncing, your pH is bouncing. You're figuring out how to best use your refractometer to get your salinity spot on, and all those other caveats. So the stuff's still doing that little ebb and flow, as opposed to a year later, your tank, your schedule, and you're just boom. That's it. Parameters are locked in because you know what's going on. So it's a great question. Do you know the Zen Ginger? Is that one of your followers?
I don't know.
Okay.
I think a lot of people that have been watching this stream all weekend are freshwater people.
Yeah, well, that's true. We do have a big freshwater
I think
presence
she may be asking because she's interested
How do you know
in
it's a she?
Or he.
Oh, that's why I asked you if you knew
I don't
who
know.
this was.
No, I don't know. I don't know why I called you a female if you aren't. I'm sorry. But I would imagine this person is trying to get into saltwater because freshwater is so boring.
We can say that because all the freshwater people, like I said, have just absolutely abandoned the area.
They're gone.
They all went to lunch.
We have this whole corner to ourselves now.
I mean, we do whatever we want over here. So, but
yeah, she is a she.
Okay.
All right.
You had a 50-50.
We got it.
So
Yes.
Thank you, Zen Ginger. We appreciate it. Appreciate the question.
If you have any questions, feel free to ask. I know we're probably going to wrap up here in the next 5 minutes or so. I have a scape off that I'm going to be attending here in a second. And it's against Michelle with Bombshell Creations.
Yeah, one of the feature artists. You're one of the key people behind the building of the Aqua Crib.
Yeah, the unique thing about Aquashella that kind of separates it from all the other ones is the Aqua Crib, and you immediately walk into this. I've always compared it to like Pandora from Avatar. You know what I mean? It's just like this wacky world that you enter. This year, there's amazing special effects, and she is the lead artist on all of that. She's also selling art here, so I have absolutely no chance because I do not have an artistic eye when it comes to that.
She is the reigning champion from Orlando too.
Yeah, I don't.
So-
I have no doubt that she will that she will defeat me, but it'll be fun. It'll be fun to try.
Honestly, my favorite part of the show is there's this guy that does all the announcements. Oh man, that voice.
Oh, do you have the microphone
Just
on
dreamy.
you?
I gave it away, so
well,
that was a little self-plug.
I was going to have you make an announcement.
I should have made
while
an
we were on the
announcement.
stream.
I gave the mic to Scott Crow from OSA, which could be a very big mistake. I don't know. and we don't really have the overhead speakers here because we're doing this, so I can't tell what he's been doing. He could be beatboxing. He could be actually doing the announcements I asked him to, but nobody knows with Scott Crow. And if you saw Remy yesterday, Scott was on here doing one of these things. And
Gosh, I felt like the whole stage was going to collapse with how much arm movement he had.
He cannot sit still. Scott is a living puppet, human Muppet. But anyway, I don't know why are we talking about Scott. Who cares about Scott? This is our time.
Lady Diane is from St. Louis.
Yeah.
She said, "Thanks for the talk. Great questions, Zen Ginger." I think Zen Ginger's asking if we're gonna stream the scape off, and I believe we will be doing that.
I believe so. Yeah, Fresh was streamed yesterday.
Fresh
so.
is so much more interesting, I feel like, with scaping than.
Let's be fair. You're in a rock stacking contest.
Exactly, and that's the thing is that with scaping a reef tank, you're kind of like having to visualize where am I going to put a torch?
Yeah.
How much room does that torch take up in the tank? And you're kind of having to visualize where the corals are going to go. That's why it's always a good thing to know kind of where you want to go with your tank. Is it going to be mixed reef? Is it going to be just softies? Is it just going to be SPS? That kind of thing.
Why doesn't anybody put driftwood in a saltwater aquarium? I mean, I live on the ocean. I grew up on the ocean. There's driftwood everywhere.
So it's funny you should say that. Tyler, Inland_Reef on Instagram.
Our good buddy, one of the RNN admins.
He just popped in some driftwood into a tank build that he's doing for a saltwater tank.
Boom.
So I'm sure that there are people that are like, no, why would you do that? That's dumb. But he's trying it. I think it's going to look awesome.
It's going to be super cool.
Yeah.
I am on a mission. If you guys listen, if anybody watching this actually listens to the podcast, I talked about wanting to do a saltwater paludarium. Abs, I don't know.
That'd be cool.
Paludarium, if you don't know, that's land and water together
yeah.
in tanks, and usually people do it with. I saw there's a freshwater one over here with muddy mud skippers. You see those?
Oh yeah.
Yeah, that was super cool. But people will do them with different turtles and fish or whatever. But I want to do a saltwater one. I think it'd be really cool. And then one tank I'm working on too is we purchased a 6-foot long lagoon tank, which was actually made to be a frag tank. But I have this vision of doing mangroves at one end with a sand bed that comes up to them, and then like 2 power heads on pulse mode, and see if I can actually get a wave to like flow down the tank, and then do some cool like sand bed corals and some rocks and fish and stuff. So we'll see. We've got a new studio building. We'll be building that in the studio. It'll be super cool. But we got to
that tank.
Prep.
That tank that $1,200 tank I was telling you about just wheeled
rolled
out.
by. There you go. Another
Sold.
deal you missed. So, Remy, thank you so much for having me up here. It was awesome to be here. It's awesome to be at these shows with you. You and I have worked together on podcast stuff and doing things together. Now to be up here with you and have you part of the Aquashella Road Show, as I'm coming to call it. It's awesome. So thanks for having me up here. I look forward to doing more of this stuff. I look forward to being more with you guys out there, especially because RNN, you probably never heard of us because podcasts are they're not as popular as YouTube, but big new studio coming and video stuff coming from us too. So if you don't know me now, remember this face, because it's going to be coming at you.
Remember the beard.
Oh, yeah.
Thank you guys so much for joining us on the Aquashella Chicago live stream. We're going to get to the scape off. Have yourself a great day, and there'll be more to come.
Stay fishy, friends.